Hello and welcome to the Day After Podcast, a spin-off series of the YouTube channel, The Jestour. Well, today we are talking about something we've mentioned quite a bit up until now, the 3 seasons of Versailles.
Hi, Mike here, everybody. And Johnny's not here at the moment because was it a year ago? Or about a month, like half a year ago or a year ago, where you were geeking out over a historical drama, Versailles.
Yes.
And you started you looked at me with big chibi eyes and screamed Mikey, can we watch this?
Yeah, so Michael is the one I make sit through a lot of my historical dramas. God bless him.
And you had been comparing it to The Tudors, which I had seen when it came out in HBO years ago, and I enjoyed it. So I was like, hey, what the hell?
Yeah, so I had watched Versailles on my own. It was kind of whatever about it, because I don't really get into... There's a lot of Netflix historical dramas. Not that this is Netflix funded, but we did watch it on Netflix. There's a lot of these historical dramas that I'm just kind of about, because I want them to be the Tudors, which I fucking love. Versailles is not the Tudors, which is a very good thing.
It's a very different beast with similar features.
Yes, and we'll tackle that hopefully at a later date. So right now we'll just talk about Versailles. So, for those of you who don't know, Versailles covers portions of the life of Louis XIV of France from the 1660s up until the 1680s, so when he's 20 to late 30s years old. We'll talk about each one of the seasons, and then we'll get into the characters, because the characters is what really makes this show.
The focus, the juice, the meat of this show is the characters and their development. And I'll get into this later. The suspense plots are kind of its weak point. But nonetheless. So first season begins with the royal construction of Versailles as we know it today.
Yes, yeah. So season 1 is mainly about Louis taking his father's hunting lodge and building a palace out of it. And in doing so, kind of cementing himself as king, and kind of curtailing the nobles as a king, as an absolute monarch. This is kind of the heyday of absolute monarchies.
And he's I think it should be emphasized that unlike some historical drama about an English king, Louis historically removed the center of power from Paris and made, again, a bumfuck hunting lodge.
Yes. Out in the middle of nowhere.
Into a Baroque paradise.
Yeah, Baroque Rococo.
And then forced all of the nobles of France to go, if you want any influence in this country, you live here. And you live under my house, under my rules.
Yes.
And get drunk a lot and play cards and stuff. But he made everything about the royal or the noble political structure revolve around him. And the first season revolves around this power struggle between the king building this palace in the middle of bumfuck nowhere and the nobles going, why the fuck would I want to live there?
Yeah, in the middle of nowhere in this. I have been to Versailles, by the way. It is staggering. Every time this series cuts to the chapel, I'm fucking blown away. The chapel is the only part of Versailles when you go there that you can't take pictures in. So you're left to just kind of put your phone away, put your camera away, and just kind of take in what's around you. So that's why the chapel stands out to me. So as we talk about these seasons, we're going into season 1. We're going to mention what we're calling the suspense plot, the overarching plot of the season. And then within that, there's little, what makes this show great is the little character dramas that happen in the middle of that. So the overarching plot of season 1 is Louis building Versailles, trapping the nobles inside, and establishing himself as an absolute monarch. And I would go into the history, but time and place.
And then the show adds a little bit of spice to it by, I think, inventing a kind of rebellion plot amongst some of the nobles, and a little bit of the spice of little added Huguenots and stuff like that.
Yeah, the whole Protestant issue, because that's what people expect when you have when you have a series like this, is a whole lot of religious tension.
And season 1 basically wraps up with Louis cementing his power squashing the rebellion.
Yeah.
And we're done.
Yes, and we're done. So that's the overarching plot of season 1. We'll get into the character dramas when we actually talk about the characters, which is going to be a little bit later.
Season 2, a few years later, we have Louis is basically the structure of season 2 is abroad. He is having a war with the Dutch.
Yes,
and at home, his court is being dismantled from within by a conspiracy of Satanists poisoning the nobles.
Yeah, that's a real thing.
And when you say
it's a real thing.
And when you say it bluntly like that, it sounds stupid.
And it kind of is. And then we have.
And then he squishes the Satanists. Season 3.
And then we have season 3.
Season 3 is a mix match of a proto-French Revolution that's squashed and the Man in the Iron Mask.
So to do a small tangent here, I had not read this story. I did not know much about Three Musketeers. I don't know much about French history in general, for all that I'm a history nut.
I know outlines. So.
So when we got to the Man in the Iron Mask, Milo's like, "Oh my God, tell me they're not." And I was like, "What? Like, what is this?" And he's like, "This is like the most famous Three Musketeers."
They're
story.
doing three, for fuck's sake! And I had been rooting for them. 2 seasons we're dealing with Louis XIV. Not once did they mention the Three Musketeers. Not once. I was so proud of them. And then open the prison door and you see this guy covered in iron, and I'm like, fuck.
Which, again, we'll get to that plot point when we talk about the details later.
Okay.
So those are the kind of your 3 basic plots. The seasons aren't really connected, but other than by the characters.
Season 3 basically ends with the Man in the Iron Mask unveiled. Turns out it's Louis's dad. Turns out he's not actually the son of the actual king, but hide that under the rug. And then Paris Rebellion squashed.
Yes.
And then it ends with Louis talking to his little boy going, "This is how you be a king."
Yeah, every season ends the same way, by the way, of Louis talking to his son and giving him advice for the future. And so at the end of every season, the Dauphin comes to Versailles. The Dauphin doesn't actually live there. But at the end of every season, the Dauphin comes to Versailles and Louis gives his speech. Tiny Louis.
Lou.
That's kind of what happens in the 3 seasons.
And I feel bad kind of going over that in the tone that we were.
Yeah.
Because it suggests that we don't like this show.
We do. We absolutely do. But the overarching plots of the seasons are the show's weak point. And a couple other choices that were made along the way.
The treasure of this show, the best parts are the characters and their character developments and the interactions.
Yes.
And the center of this show is, of course, Louis XIV.
Yes, played by George Blagden. God, he's 26 in this series.
Does a fantastic job, okay. Can I first need to do a little preface because you need to take the reins in, but I first need to preface this with something because as someone who came to the show going, "Oh God, it's about fluffy, froofy Louis." This show has this main challenge of meeting your expectations. The show's in English, so the common English speakers' conception of Louis XIV, the Sun King, just this bewigged guy in high heels, with the giant palace and the ballet and starving people. It does that.
It does do that.
And it meets that cliche head on and puts a human heart in it and makes you. It does not justify Louis XIV. It makes you understand him or a plausible version of him. Yes,
and again, something I think the Tudors does as well. So I feel bad for my poor friend Mikey over here.
I hate Louis XIV. He is a bastard. He's fascinating though. He's a fuckhead.
A horrible person. He really is. Mikey and I, especially through season 3, had this adage with Louis: the better king he is, the worse person he is, and vice versa.
That holds true. Yeah.
When he becomes a good person, he's a shitty ruler.
Yeah.
When he's doing his best as king, he's a horrible, just awful tyrant.
And so people that may be interested in the show, you may come up with this roadblock of, if you're looking for likable characters, you're not gonna, at least for me, you're not gonna find it in the main character.
Yeah, you're not gonna. Yeah, I like Louis, but I like king narratives, and Milo doesn't.
I don't find royalty that intrinsically fascinating, and you get this, so much of Louis's problems he creates himself.
Yeah, he is. And then so much of the major plot points in the show are him blaming other people for problems he created.
What would you say, okay, what is the main trajectory of Louis's character from season 1 to season 3?
He doesn't really change a whole lot. He kind of gets, I mean, he grows into the Louis we know. He grows into the Sun King, the king that we know, the probably the most famous absolute monarch of Europe, and he really chartered in a reign of absolute monarchies. But again, like, you see all these things that he does, and I so admire series that can do this, to take massive figures and make them human, not just portraits on a landscape or words on a page. To take something and make it human takes an incredible effort by everybody involved, from the camera guy to the screenwriter to Blagden himself. And Louis is human. He's a king, but he is human. And everything he does, you understand.
Yeah.
You don't agree with it all the time.
Yes.
But you understand.
I don't agree with it. Unlike, there are some, like when we were watching season 3, there are some decisions that other characters have where I'm going, why did you do that?
Yeah.
We'll get to that later. But yeah, Louis you can follow his emotions and his motivations step by step. And it's a fascinating psychological portrait. And there are so many turns, especially in the later 2 seasons, where you find yourself going, I don't know how to feel about this character, because there are these traditional segments where you would go, oh yeah, I'm rooting for the main character. You go.
Oh God.
Well, okay, it's like, for example, in season 3, when Louis becomes, like we just said before, he becomes a better person on the human scale, between his family members and his friends. And and you want to root for him in that angle and go, yeah, you keep going. Yeah, good boy. And then he'll turn and go, about persecuting Protestants.
Yeah.
And starting wars. Louis, what the fuck you doing, man?
What are you doing? You were all just like, what the heck? You went and saved your boo from a nunnery, and now you're just fucking killing people left and right.
As you follow his character development, every time you feel good about it and you're rooting for this trajectory, it necessarily comes with just horrible things.
Yes.
Either he is a tyrant but a good person, or he's he becomes a horrible person to everyone around him.
Yes.
But he's making good geopolitical decisions.
Yeah, and he's making very good alliances and all that stuff.
But I would say that there is his development by the end of from season 1 to season 3. I think it is the personal side. Yeah,
he becomes, and keep in mind, this is a guy who is, his dad died when he was young, so this is a guy who's been king since like he could walk.
Yeah.
He's not just been a regent, he's not just been prince. No, he's been actually king. His mother was regent for him for quite a while. But that's the world he grows up in, and it's a completely like hard to imagine scenario, and they make him so human.
These poignant scenes where one by one he realizes in season 1, in season 2, how he ruins the women in his life. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes.
And by season 3, he's like, I'm not ruining this one.
Yes.
Montagnant is, he absolutely in the first season, he has a relationship with a kind of like someone who's almost like a sister that he fucks.
Yeah. It's Henriette, who is the sister of Charles of England, Charles II of England.
And his brother's wife.
And his brother's wife. And it's more, just somebody I've grown up with, and that's
very fond of, but he ends up manipulating her to her death.
Yes.
Unintentionally.
Like literally to her death.
Season 2, he becomes infatuated with Montespan,
who is if there's any character in this movie who can be, or in this series who can be compared to Anne Boleyn, it's Montespan.
Yeah, she's the Anne Boleyn of Versailles. And
she doesn't get her head chopped off, but she might as well have.
And his relationship, like, he's physically infatuated with her.
Yes. And I really do think he admires, like, her cunning and the way she handles and the way she carries herself.
But his preference of just going one mistress of the other and recycling them makes her kind of crazy.
Yeah, in the same way that Anne Boleyn does with Henry VIII. Yeah, she ends up becoming this crazy, jealous, insanity girl that is constantly hounding Louis after everything he's doing, and he gets just fucking sick of her. He gets sick of her, and she is different from Henriette, where she's the king's lead mistress, and she flaunts it about court, including in front of Louis's wife.
Oh, and yeah, we forgot. and Marie Therese, the queen who
is Spanish.
She is. She is this unfortunate character who, for most of the show, is locked up.
Yeah.
Character-wise, especially, she is truly a chess piece.
Until she has the black baby.
Yes, but like episode 1 and 2, she gets these scenes, and then she's almost imprisoned, and
which is fascinating, because that's exactly how Louis treats her.
Yeah,
he's kind of just like, I'm married, but because I have to be. And she's just constantly like not even in his mind. He's just compartmentalized her away somewhere.
You are part of the furniture.
Yeah. The mistress of season 3 is Madame de Maintenon, who you're introduced to in season 2. And she has a past. She has all this dirt that eventually gets dug up, but she moves beyond it. And she's older. She's older than Louis is. And she has this experience, and their relationship is just fascinatingly portrayed. This is a mistress that, after Marie Therese dies, Louis actually marries her. And she's a relatively low-born noble.
And if you look in the history books, this woman did exist and was married to Louis XIV.
Probably.
But she was never the queen.
But she was never the queen. Yep, she was never crowned queen. She was never given that power, which Louis can't have a true queen. He can't. And have the power he wants. God, that sounds really odd how we put those girls, like just a girl a season.
Well, I think you have to, because to explain Louis's character development, you have to explain his house.
Yes, you do.
and
Louis has other great interactions with other characters. We'll get to the big one in a minute, but season 3, his main interaction is with Emperor Leopold.
Oh yeah, yes. There are these sections where Louis meets another political leader that he can't push around.
Yeah, that he can't just like make me do, like make him dance to their tune, to his tune.
And with Leopold, he's the Holy Roman Empire. He meets someone who is just as good as a politician as he is.
Yeah.
But Leopold does not have a unified nation like France.
Yes.
He has the Holy Roman Empire, which neither holy nor Roman nor an empire.
Yes. And he doesn't have Louis's ambition either. By that point in season 3, Louis has set his sights on Spain, on Portugal, and on the Netherlands, to take them over and put them under France.
Yeah, but Leopold still beat him in a sword fight.
Yes, which was awesome.
Sorry, I love it when Louis gets like
Michael really likes it when Louis gets taken down a peg.
Hello, little feller.
just fucking sit down for a second. Stop it. Just sit in time out for a minute. God.
Yeah, so these are the kind of...
These are the character dramas we were talking about. This is what makes the series great. And by and large, the show, its drama, and its plot points are absolutely carried by the relationship between Louis and his brother Philippe.
Okay, there we go. What we were just talking about is that's Louis and basically the tendril characters.
Yeah, his kind of side characters that mean a lot to Louis, but not so much to the show.
But when it comes to the show, there's really two characters.
Yes.
There's Louis and Philippe, who is my favorite character. And also
played beautifully by Alexandre Bontemps.
And also, Haley has a boner for
I do, but like Alexander's hot too.
Yeah, you love Louis. I've found out something new about myself. Oh my god, I really like Philippe. He's sexy, and he's strutting a dress.
Yes. So Philippe has a very interesting character development. Philippe really is kind of the king of sass, and he's the only person who can bring Louis to heel. Not to heel, that's the wrong word. He's the only person who can really make Louis not a king for a second.
Yes. This show, what I so much admire about the relationship between Louis and Philippe as portrayed in the show is that they were set with the task of writing a character who was the brother of the Sun King, of an absolute monarch. And what they didn't do, and I love this, is that they didn't do the Game of Thrones shit of, oh, you're the brother of the king. Therefore, most of the drama between you and him must be, you want to kill him.
Yeah. No.
Or like the rivalry of some of the like, oh, you want to be the successor or something, which is what most historical dramas frequently do with brothers. It's the paranoia of succession and stuff. Philippe doesn't want any of that shit.
No, Philippe, there's this, it only comes up once, this idea that Philippe may perhaps be a better king, and it's at the end of season 1.
Right.
When
they told him that...
When they think Louis is going to die because he's sick.
Yeah. But he's no way in instigating Louis' death, but he just said he's really sick right now. Yeah,
and so they're like, oh my god, who are we going to have as regent? And of course, Philippe is the obvious choice. However, there's no desire to make him king. They want him to just kind of hold the crown for a second while the Dauphin grows up. And Philippe's like, hey, so you don't think I can do it? Like, I didn't want it until...
So instead of that well-tread idea of... But I want to be the king too. No, what you get is this fascinating drama between a guy who, in some sense, he's the Duc d'Orléans. He does have a lot of privileges, but his life is defined by his relationship to the king. He is as much a subject
of his
brother. Maybe sometimes even the prisoner metaphor is used occasionally.
Yes,
the guy cannot have his own life.
Yes. And there are scenes, there are points in the show, this isn't all the time, or we get dragged down really fast, where this fact makes Philippe just abjectly miserable.
He has no life of his own whatsoever. He dreams of doing something else with his life, of finding some other meaning besides being the king's brother.
And then he becomes a soldier.
Yeah. So he thinks that one way to do that may be to be a general in a glorious war.
Yes.
And somehow make something of yourself, find some freedom, some autonomy in the battlefield.
Yes.
And that happens twice?
Yeah, quite often. In season 2, it's more hit home. And in season 2, it's especially hit on because in season 2, Louis takes even that away.
Yes.
Philippe, as he's gone through this military training, he becomes a general. He's begging Louis to go to war. And he is. He's a very good general. In the war with the Dutch, he develops these camaraderies with all these soldiers. He's finally kind of come into his own. And then Louis shows up and said, "This war's over. I signed a treaty."
and this is his
Philippe had to fight to even get to go to war, by the way, because Louis didn't want him to.
He gets a little jealous because maybe the soldiers will like him more than me. Not only does he find autonomy on the battlefield, he finds camaraderie with his fellow men.
Yes.
He actually relates with the subject of France in a way that Louis never does.
Yeah, and in a way that Louis can't.
Of course, but
As I defend Louis here. I don't know why. Again, you find yourself rooting for Louis and like, oh my gosh, like I totally understand you. Yet you also have to accept that what he's doing is horrible.
It's one of these problems with Louis that on the one hand, in describing him, you end up inevitably insulting him because he's an asshole. Yeah. But that doesn't stop you from understanding him. And thank you for pulling me back.
And sympathizing with him. And Philippe goes through the same things that you do. Like, I hate him. I hate what he's turned my life into. I fucking hate him. But he's my brother.
And yeah, the show never lets he never ultimately turns his back on his brother. He distrusts his brother, but he never betrays his brother. And when push comes to shove, at the end of every season, he's always there for his brother.
He's always there, and they always have a great scene, a great scene together. Usually, it's towards the end. It usually happens around episode 7 or 8. I'll talk about this more when we compare this to the Tudors, but I think it's episode 7 or episode 8. There's a scene that I call "There Is Your Music," which is not only the best thing, one of the best scenes I've ever seen in a historical drama. It is one of the best scenes I have ever seen on film.
That was absolutely wonderful scene, and kind of the mission statement of the first season. If the show wasn't picked up, yes, that would have been its mission statement.
Yeah. And again, we'll get into more of these nitty gritty details. I want to do an essay on some of these historical dramas later, and so we'll get into the details then. For now, this is just kind of an overview. But that scene is just fantastic. And then there's the scene where Philippe walks out in a dress.
There's so much to talk about with just those two, and again, they are the two centers of the show.
They are the complete driving force in the show.
Unfortunately, and we need to get to other characters, but we just have to say, unfortunately, the writers drop Philippe's character, they drop the ball, and they make him this obsessed detective guy trying to figure out who's the man behind the iron mask.
Yeah, and they absolutely ruin Philippe's character in season 3.
They drag him through this stupid plot with the bare minimum motivation, and they waste him for 6 or 7 episodes when he could be doing such interesting development with all the other characters. And the rest of the show is has Philippe-size holes going, this is where you should be. This is where you should be.
Yeah, and you see constantly with all the drama that's happening in season 3, there's a rebellion in Paris. And one of the
soldier buddy.
One of the main leaders of the rebellion is somebody he went to war with.
Or his relatives.
Yeah.
But we know it.
But you get what I mean. There's so many things, and in the whole political issues with Leopold, if Philippe was there behind Louis,
I didn't even think about that. That would have been so much better.
There would have been, but no, they fucking shoehorn into this plot that doesn't impact the main characters at all, it's really done for a fucking stupid Three Musketeers reference.
It's really bad.
Sorry.
It's the worst part of this series for me.
Yeah, it is. Season 3 is a problem. It is. And what they do to Philippe is just absolutely inexcusable. I like these writers. I love what they, I love the things they put out. You really dropped the ball there.
Yeah, and again, it's not Alexander Vlahos's fault.
No, it's clearly a writing problem.
It's the writers.
It's clearly a writing problem.
Okay, anyway. So
at Philippe's right hand is his boyfriend,
Chevy.
Chevalier de Lorraine, who we gloriously call Chevy. Very clearly the fan favorite.
I love you, Chevy.
Gloriously by Evan Williams, who I believe is the only American.
I think so.
Actor?
Maybe is he American or Canadian?
Could be
American with this.
Canadian. A lot of the actors in this are either French or British. You do have some Canadians and some Americans as well.
Chevy, when you see him, and I love this, is he giving head or is it Philippe?
Philippe is giving head to Chevalier in the first scene you see them.
Oh, I love it. Okay, and you're introduced.
The show is sexy.
And when you're introduced to this guy, you think, okay, this is just the amoral rake.
Yeah, this is when you look up a French person in the dictionary, a French person in the 1680s in the dictionary. Chevy is who you expect to see.
And
he's a fop.
But then what is revealed he's the biggest sweetheart.
He is. He's an idiot, but he's the guy. He's
a bubbling fool that keeps burgeoning into conspiracy plots and unbeknownst.
Yeah.
Hey guys, what you doing?
Yeah, he falls ass over backwards into most of the conspiracy plots, and I think every single season ends up in jail.
Every single one, yeah.
Every single one. And is only spared by his relationship with Philippe.
But he is this fabulous. Like, I can't snap my fingers. Yeah, but just
oh my god, almost every word of it, his mouth is golden.
Like just imagine someone strutting in a gorgeous red leather jacket, giant feather in his cap, going, "I'm here."
That's exactly, yes, that is Chevalier de Lorraine.
Find that screenshot, but
yes, find that, John. Go draw it if it's not working.
But heart on his sleeve, just such a little push.
You mentioned this in season 1. His relationship with Philippe is by far the healthiest relationship in the entire show.
Yes, Philippe, and again, this is one of the great things about Philippe as well. He and Chevy's relationship is the best. It's the best. It's the most developed.
Yes.
It's the most complex.
Yes, it's given the most time.
It's so sweet and painful when it hurts, and
what Chevalier does to Philippe, not in that way, what Chevalier does for Philippe's character, you see this especially when Philippe isn't fucking over himself in season 3. In seasons 1 and 2, almost every time Philippe and Chevalier have a serious moment, one that isn't funny or witty or to lighten the show up, Philippe like fucking breaks down crying on his knees every time he's around this man. He's the only one who he's like Philippe's only confidant, the only person who's on his side. Yes, Philippe is the king of sass in a different way than Chevalier, certainly, but it's so powerful to see how one man you respect so much and one man who you see go through so much finally just drop all the walls when they're alone.
And I think you could say also there's also a similar relationship in the reverse way.
Yes.
Where, okay, Chevy sometimes gets a little flustered easily, but when in season 2, when he's concerned that if Philippe doesn't love me, then who loves me?
Yeah, if Philippe he literally says something tangent to, if you don't love me, I don't want to be alive.
It's so sad. The guy is like, they have such affection for each other, and they find so much meaning in the fact that, at least there's this one person that I can love.
And that's why their relationship is the healthiest in the show. I promise, now that we're after the two main characters, we'll stop talking in length, but well, my god, Chevalier is...
And he's the comic relief of...
He's the funniest character in the show.
Absolutely hilarious. And he's kind of the
needed levity. Yeah, and the needed emotional heart.
And he keeps constantly bumping into things with, like, in season 1, he accidentally bumps into a conspiracy to assassinate the king.
Yes.
In season 2,
his aunt.
In season 2, he becomes a drug dealer.
In season 2, he becomes a drug dealer in a time when the palace is filled with poison.
And in season 3, he becomes part of the Protestant.
Yeah, he falls in love with a woman. And she is a Protestant in the time when Louis is starting to persecute Protestants.
And he's like, God damn it, I gotta get bitches out of prison. Yes.
And then he becomes a fucking badass. He becomes the Philippe we needed.
Yes.
I just, ugh.
And he also, I love it. Chevy, let the record show, shot that Jack-killing motherfucker Thomas.
Yes, he did shoot.
I mean, you rotten hell, Thomas, you fucker.
Who killed Jacques, the palace gardener, who's a great character until he sadly dies. So we have Philippe's emotional backbone, Louis's emotional backbone. We talked about his mistresses, but by far the person Louis leans on the most, besides his brother, is his valet,
Bontemps,
who is pretty much his dad.
Yeah.
pretty much his father in the sense that how we mean the word father, not you were birds from my loins.
Should we get into the extent of what, like, valet, not in the sense of, oh, he escorts you around town. No, this guy takes care of Louis day and night, 24/7, sleeps by his bed in a cot.
Yes. There's a great scene, I think it's in season 1, where Louis is as he's trying to come into his own and quash all these nobles, he's starting to really have doubts about what he's doing and if he can really do it. And there's this great scene with them by the fire where he tells the guard to bring over a chair with arms, which is not allowed in the presence of a king unless you're also royal. And they sit and have this really meaningful discussion. Bontemps is always the one to pull Louis out of anytime he's fallen into an emotional rut or like a hole. Bontemps is the one to pull him out.
Right. And he also defines for the audience the utter faith in Louis as the God's chosen one.
Yes, as God's representative on earth as king.
When you're a modern audience and you sometimes have trouble understanding what's this big deal with this kingship thing, you have to get in the mindset of Bontemps.
Yes.
Who just without any shadow of a doubt thinks that this guy is not okay, in a sense, yes, kind of my son.
Yeah.
But also God chose this man to run France.
Yes.
And to defy him is to defy God.
Yes. And that was, to
serve him is the greatest thing ever.
Yeah, and to serve him is the greatest honor that he can imagine. And that's, that's in this age of absolute monarchies, that's exactly the defense they were using. This is when you see a lot of kings start to break away from the church. England, by the way, is way early to this party, but this is when you start seeing more kings break away from the church and take power to their own. And nobody takes more power than Louis. And part of what makes Louis so human is you don't appreciate the toll that takes on him until you see his scenes with Bontemps.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this is when Louis can break down. I mean, he does some with his mistresses a little bit, with the people he forms close relationships to. But Louis is at his most vulnerable when he's talking to Bontemps. And he's a valet. In the way that Downton Abbey valets take care of their masters. That's what I mean here when I use that word. Yeah, and so it's you get to see a side of Louis that the show wouldn't be complete without, because Bontemps exists.
Well said.
We a couple more characters we'll go in depth.
Do we want to get to Marchal?
Yeah. So, one of the made-up characters for this series, somebody who did not exist, is the chief of Versailles police, Fabian Marchal.
Yeah.
Played by this guy whose name I can't pronounce, but he's awesome.
I have a complicated relationship with this character, because on the one hand, he's fucking awesome.
Yes.
On the other one, he's absolutely a horrible mass murdering fuckhead.
Yes.
He's the precursor for the Stalin secret police.
Yeah.
He's the guy that drives up to your house and takes daddy away. And if he's lucky, daddy goes to the gulags.
Yes.
He's a terrifying man.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
but they make him awesome.
Yeah, Fabian is Louis' sword among the people. He's the one who does all the dirty work, who does the torturing, who does the arresting of political criminals. Fabian is the king's dog, and they say so as much in the show itself.
In the first episode, you to see the cruelty of the guy after he's killing some guards and stuff. There's this illegitimate child, and everyone's like, "Give the baby to Marchal." He's like, "I get to drown the baby,"
and he drowns the baby in a barrel almost.
Yeah, he is perfectly willing to drown a newborn infant in a barrel of water.
Yeah.
And he's the badass of the show that makes you go, yeah, fuck yeah.
Yeah, and Marchal's greatest bit of development is how he changes. And if season 3 was kind to anyone, it was to Marchal. Because it's where he actually steps back, takes a look at what he's done, all the horrible things he's done. Every woman he's ever loved has died in his arms because of his job.
Oh my. Okay.
Whether it's Sophie,
season 1, he falls in love with someone, decapitates her.
Yes.
Season 2,
he falls in love with the doctor.
With the doctor who's
then poisoned.
Because
of his own incompetence for not catching the poisoner.
He then falls in love with the daughter of the decapitated lady,
and she runs away.
But he lets her go. That's what.
But he's trying to kill her.
But he eventually lets her go.
And then he has a very brief affair with one of the cobbler sisters, Jeanne.
Or not an affair in the sense of...
No, it's just brief is what I meant. It's not like they...
Understanding.
There's no romantic involvement. But she is...
Soft on ladies is what we're saying.
Yeah.
But God help you, if you have testicles, he will break them and shove them in your kneecaps.
Yes. And then sew it back up and make you walk. That's the kind of guy Fabian Marchal is. He has a weird relationship with doors. Every time he enters
he does the Batman sneak up and then
boom. Every time he enters a room, and it's up to him to open the door, he takes all of the double doors and just throws them open as hard as he can. Fucking boom! I'm here, bitches.
If there's a door, I will bust it open and you will shit your pants. But unlike, I think it's good that we introduce Bontemps first.
Yeah.
Before with Marchal, because these are the two. These are the. If Bontemps, okay, if Marchal is the right hand, Bontemps is the left hand.
Yes.
And in season 3, you see that Bontemps' faith in Louis is absolute, won't shake.
Yes.
Marchal is not treated with as part of the family in a sense.
No, yeah, Marchal is kind of...
He's a tool.
Yeah, and in season 3 especially, which is kind of out of character for a lot of them, because there's a lot of great scenes between Marchal and Louis, and the trust that Louis places in him. But in a weird out of character thing, God, season 3 has problems. They kind of treat Marchal like shit for the whole 3rd season, and that eventually leads to his turn.
Yeah, they keep him out of I just forgot but they don't tell him very important information.
Yeah.
Furthermore, the information they're not telling him is about problems of Louis' legitimacy.
Yeah, the whole man in the iron mask thing.
And this is you are not giving information to the man who has murdered hundreds of people for you.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden he gets a whiff that maybe you're not the king.
Yeah.
This guy has devoted his life to you.
Yeah. And he can't give him just a modicum of respect.
And he starts counting the bodies in this season.
Yeah.
And
he's just like, oh my God.
And he starts to develop...
You almost murdered a 16-year-old girl.
He starts to develop a bit of a conscience. He starts to see some of the acts that he's again, this man is horrible.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, he's like, yeah.
And by the end, he puts down his sword and just says, "I'm not gonna, no more blood. I'm not killing anymore."
Yep.
And
Louis tells him to go kill every Protestant in Paris. Yes, every single one. And Marchal says no.
And he ends up hiding with the Protestants, and they ask him to join them, and he goes, and I do respect this point of the show, instead of doing the hypocritical thing of going, I've killed too much, I'm going to start killing my own men now. Yeah,
he's like, I can't kill anymore, I can't do this anymore,
and
he leaves.
He comes back in a futile attempt to save some people, but he doesn't. But they draw his character in such a tragic arc where by the end of season 3, like episode 7 or 8, I'm going, this guy's in a dead end. There's nowhere he can go. Yeah, he's absolutely fucked.
And he knows that.
It's so depressing. It's such a dead end. Yeah. And the last time we see him, he's in one of his own prison cells.
Yeah, he's in one of his own jail cells.
Which is the only place he could be. And it's really futile, but it's where, that makes sense.
Just oof.
And he's lost all faith in everything he's done with his life.
Yeah. He's a great character though, and it's fascinating. So there are lots of characters of Versailles that we're not going to talk in detail about. The relationships between all of these characters really define the show. There's only one I want to talk about in detail, and then we'll kind of leave you be here because I'm sure this podcast has gone on long enough. Princess Palatine.
Ha! That's my girl.
So at the start of the series, as we mentioned, Philippe is married to Henriette. They don't really have a relationship though, because Henriette is sleeping with Louis and Philippe is sleeping with Chevalier. After Henriette's death, there's a German principality that Louis wants an alliance with in order to help take down the Dutch, and the daughter from that principality is sent. And so I believe that's what Palatine is. Right. Is that douchey in Germany. And she is... It's so... You mentioned this with the Doctor. It's Thank you for bringing this up. So easy in this fucking historical dramas to... God, doesn't just being a woman suck? Right. If I was a woman in this time, I wouldn't have just laid down like that.
This is exactly what I was going to bring up. Yeah. Yes. The first season has this really admirable but flawed attempt at
boss bitch.
I was going to say like feminist criticism of... Yeah. And again, I am a feminist, but just going to go, if I was born in the 1500s, I'd be a rebel ninja scientist lady. It's stupid. It's really bad.
And when the girl dies, it's abandoned pretty quick.
There's nothing wrong with the actress. She does a fantastic job with what she's given. What she's given is shit.
Yeah, she's written poorly. And then you have Palatine.
Who, that's the better version of what the Doctor character, what her role was supposed to be. Yeah. Like the representative of a woman in this society that recognizes the problems and the limitations and the tragedy of it. She does it much better.
Yes. Yeah, so Palatine is a boss-ass bitch. Like, from the very beginning, when she meets Louis, when she meets Philippe for the first time, they've announced that they're going to be married, and she has gifts for Philippe's kids. Now, Philippe hasn't seen his kids in fucking ages. And the first time Philippe sees her, she's actually peeing by the riverbank. Just out in the middle of nowhere, and totally fine with it. And... she comes up and she's like, "Oh, hi, Philippe, how you doing?" Very, very American in how she acts is how I would describe it. And she has this great relationship with Chevalier, who normally you'd be like, "Oh my God, you're my husband's lover. This is weird." But no, they end up forming a really close bond, which is awesome.
The weirdest, one of the most fascinating sex scenes I've ever seen in television or film, which is, it's about her and Philippe trying to get pregnant, but Philippe is gay. Yeah. And she so what she does is she starts stroking his ego, saying, "You could probably be a good king," and starts telling him to fantasize about wrestling with naked soldiers covered in the middle of the battlefield. And you get this sex scene which there isn't there it's like buddy fucking. Yeah. It's just pure friendly affection. Yeah. It's not really, they're not in love. They're buddies.
Yeah, and they need to consummate their marriage and have kids. That's what Palatine wants.
It's like at the end literal fuck buddies.
Yeah. At the end of that sex scene, there's probably a very, very great line where she's like, "So, did you imagine your naked shoulders?" And he's like, did you imagine that I was a soldier?" And he's like, "Actually, I imagined a troop of them." I'm like, yes.
And then she develops a relationship with Chevy. Yeah. Which is this fascinating threesome of a. It's not okay. Yeah. It's not like she doesn't fuck them all the time. No.
And she never, there's never any sexual connection between her and Chevalier.
You get this triangle of sex and friendship.
and this camaraderie that comes with, we both love the same man. Yeah, love in their unique ways. Palatine does care for Philippe.
Yes, she does.
It's not really stoked about being married to him, but she does very much care about him. In a way that a wife should for her husband, whereas Chevalier is in love with him. Yes.
Very, very strange menage a trois.
Yeah.
But not in a
passionate, sexy way.
not in a passionate way, but
yeah.
And I just love the dynamics of this trio.
And they need a spinoff.
Yes, and I keep saying every time I see them together, this needs to be a spinoff. Johnny, could you find this screenshot of the three of them walking down a corridor at the last episode?
Yeah, when they're arm in arm with each other.
It's just there's so much it's so much charisma in that one shot.
Yeah.
And just fascinating and very original portrayal of a relationship, this really confusing relationship that's a combo of friendship and tremendous love and understanding and frustrations.
Yeah.
And but nonetheless, at the end of the day, going, walk arm in arm. We're all friends here.
And she has this great line. Her last line of the show is, "I'm married to the two men I love."
Aww.
And that's just like, oh, I want that spinoff so hard. But Palatine is the boss ass bitch done right. And so I'd really urge, if you're sick of that seeing that plot line in historical dramas, because it's everywhere, go look at how this series treats Palatine, because it's a very, very good ride. Okay, final thoughts.
Okay, I like this a lot, the show a lot more than I thought I was going to, but primarily for the character relationships.
Yes.
That wonderful window into Philippe when it's good, Chevy, Palatine, and Louis when I can fucking stand him.
Yeah.
Louis is amazing. Okay, but I do.
Chibi Louis in the corner just giving you a sad face, like, come on.
You're very interesting, but I do not like you.
That's fair. Louis doesn't like himself some days.
The plots I could do without.
Yeah, this is not a perfect show. I told that to Milo when I said it. Season 3 is its biggest flaw, but it is definitely not its only one.
It's flaws magnified.
Yeah. But you stay with the show because the way these characters are treated, the way they're written, the way they're acted is phenomenal. And it's amazing to see, like, I'm watching a historical drama about 17th century France and seeing how Louis is, and I don't stay for the political quabbles, I don't stay for the war, I don't stay for the great battle scenes, I don't stay for the sex, though that helps.
Oh, Henriette's pillow boobies.
Oh my. There's a lot of sex in the show. You stay because this world that these characters exist in and how they exist together and how they interact with each other is just it's beautiful. It's great to see. It's great to see these characters on a page become human. And it does it in a way that I believe is very different from the Tudors. And again, we'll get into that later. Whenever we watch that, my apologies, I'm a fangirl.
And also, I despite its flaws, I'm sorry, I'm encroaching with the last.
No, you're fine.
But this wonderful original way it made me feel towards the ends of seasons where I'm going, I don't know how to root for these things. Yeah. I actually liked that feeling where you have all these conflicts and characters clashing. There's no clear like hero that you want to win. They're all fucked up. Yeah,
they're all fucked up in their own ways.
And it ends with, Versailles on top again.
Yeah.
With all of the same problems.
Yeah. This is one of those shows, and again, something that bothers me about season 3. It doesn't end; it stops. But you're satisfied anyway, because of the ride you're on, and because of these little dramas that have happened between the characters that are, for the most part, resolved in their own time. And you leave with this great appreciation of, like, how people live during events we only read about.